Buongiorno dalle colonie extramondo. Riprendiamo il nostro discorso sugli UFO. Ecco quali sono stati i punti chiave affrontati nel primo episodio. Negli Stati Uniti la denominazione è passata da UFO, oggetti volanti non identificati, a UAP, fenomeni anomali non identificati. Noi continueremo a usare il classico termine UFO, perché non riteniamo che cambiare il nome muti la sostanza della cosa, e ovviamente non temiamo lo stigma degli scettici. La disclosure o divulgazione è un processo composto da 5 pilastri. Gli UFO si muovono in modo non comprensibile. Gli UFO non sono né russi né cinesi. Gli UFO appartengono a un altro mondo o a un'altra dimensione. Biden partecipa a un briefing giornaliero sugli UFO dal 2021. Al completamento della disclosure, le persone reagiranno con serietà. Presumibilmente alcune persone si rivolgeranno alla religione mentre altre la abbandoneranno. Verranno poste domande teologiche e filosofiche. Questa è l'affascinante vicenda che unisce tra gli altri ex spie della CIA, il cantante e chitarrista dei Blink-82 Tom Delonge. Avete capito bene, la rockstar famosa per All the small things, true care, truth brings. Come dicevamo, oltre a Tom Delonge troveremo alcuni piloti americani e altri personaggi autorevoli del mondo della scienza, del comparto aerospaziale, della politica e dell'intelligence americana. Avremo modo di presentarli e analizzare le loro dichiarazioni nel corso di questo episodio e di quelli futuri. Incominciamo dal cantante californiano dei Blink-182. Tom Delonge ha praticamente interrotto la sua brillante carriera musicale per dedicarsi agli UFO. Sin da ragazzo Tom ha coltivato questa sua passione per gli UFO. Sentiamolo raccontare come è iniziata la sua relazione con il Pentagono.
Obviously, I started the band Blink, and Blink went places, and then, but we always had a weird band relationship, like most bands, and we also thought that we would never be big, so we started companies on the side, and I had a company that incubated a lot of small startups, like software and apparel and hardcore skate surf companies and stuff like that. Well, I learned a lot from that, and I pulled out an entertainment startup called To the Stars. And I knew I was going to be doing kind of like science fiction franchised stories, just like Disney, but science fiction for adults. And what that means is, I make a story, I title it, I brand it, and I put out the book, and I put out the merchandise, and I go make a movie, and it's a vertically integrated kind of model. Well, one of the stories I knew I wanted to put out was Secret Machines, which was kind of a historical fiction, but based on real events about the UFO phenomenon. But I also knew that I knew shit that most people don't know, because I've studied it for so long, and I happen to put some pieces together that most people don't put together. So before I came out with that book, and before I came out with the plan to take that, make major motion pictures and all that kind of stuff, I knew I needed to ask permission. So I flew around to places. I can't say who they were, and they listened to my pitch, and then I got a email out of nowhere that says meet us next to the Pentagon at this day and time, and I did that. And from that,
you got an email from just a random person?
No, I just can't tell you who it's from.
Okay.
And so then I go out.
Meet you next to the Pentagon? So you just flew to the Pentagon?
I flew out to Pentagon City. Yeah. It's dude, this gets...
Were you freaking out?
I'll tell you when I started freaking out. There's more shit. It gets way worse. This is nothing. So that started me out near DC taking some other high-level meetings, and there was somebody at a very high level that closed the door, looked me in the eye, and says, "Okay, I'm going to introduce you to somebody." And that person comes to San Diego, puts me on the phone with a general, and the general is listening to my little stump speech about what I want to do with this franchise, because I definitely didn't want to, I wasn't looking to like force disclosure, and I wasn't looking to be rogue and break secrets. I was like, look, I know what's going on here, and you guys are doing a kick-ass job, and I would have done the exact same thing should I have been the guy at the top that had to make some really hardcore decisions 70 years ago. So I want to support you. I think people are cynical because there's a vacuum. You guys can't say what you're doing. So all these people are just coming up with a bunch of bullshit to say, oh, they don't want us to know, or we can't handle it, or it's all about oil and money and all this weird shit.
But you had put these pieces together independently.
I did.
And so based on books that you read?
Yeah, people think, People think that like places like the CIA and the DIA, all these intelligence organizations have, a monopoly on information. They don't. They get their information from the real world too. They do have access to archives of information. They do have access to some amazing, satellite data and stuff like that. But if you're smart and you take your time, you know where to look and you find patterns, you can pretty much put together all the same shit they can, kind of, and that's what I did. And so when I pitched what I wanted to do, he said, come up and meet me tomorrow. And so I flew up to NASA, actually, NASA Ames, and had a 2-hour meeting there. And after 2 hours, that person says, he looks me in the eyes, I'm going to introduce you to someone else. And he did. And so I got on the phone with this person, and this person, go, I'm a skeptic. And then at the end of the conversation, he goes, fly out and see me. And so I did. And that's when things really started happening.
Tra il 2007 e il 2012, il Ministero della Difesa americano, per volontà del senatore democratico Harry Reid, ha speso $22 milioni per gestire l'AATIP, l'Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, il programma avanzato di identificazione di minaccia aerospaziale. Il senatore del Nevada Reid, che all'epoca era il leader della maggioranza del Senato, è deceduto nel 2021. Ma se la disclosure è iniziata è soprattutto grazie a lui, che ha creduto nella ricerca di fenomeni da sempre stigmatizzati da tutti. Noi non torneremo più su di lui, per rispetto della sua figura e di quello che è stato. La maggior parte dei fondi stanziati da Reid è andata ad una società di ricerca aerospaziale, la Bigelow Aerospace, fondata nel 1998 in Nevada dall'imprenditore miliardario Robert Bigelow. Bigelow attualmente collabora con la NASA per la produzione di navicelle espandibili da utilizzare nello spazio. Non possiamo non menzionare che nel 1996 Robert Bigelow ha ricevuto il maiale con le ali, cioè il premio Pegasus, che sarebbe la crasi tra Pig e Pegasus, dal noto scientifico e razionalista James Randi, conosciuto anche come The Amazing Randi, lo stupefacente Randi. Questo premio è un esempio pratico di quello che definiamo stigma, e cioè il timore di essere derisi o non creduti dagli scettici, che può riguardare tutti coloro che hanno da riferire qualcosa rispetto agli UFO. Dunque, sebbene Randi gli abbia conferito il premio satirico a forma di maiale con le ali, Bigelow non si è scoraggiato e non ha abbandonato i suoi studi e il suo lavoro, al contrario è diventato un consulente del Pentagono e un fornitore della NASA. Nello specifico, il premio fu assegnato a Bigelow per avere finanziato l'acquisto dello Skinwalker Ranch nello Utah, conosciuto anche come il ranch degli UFO e dei portali interdimensionali, su cui forse torneremo in futuro. In sostanza si tratta di una fattoria in cui si sono verificati per 50 anni eventi inspiegabili. E proprio su questi luoghi History Channel ha prodotto 3 stagioni di documentari, in Italia trasmessi da Amazon Prime. Ritornando all'AATIP, va detto che i funzionari e i ricercatori hanno studiato soprattutto video e dati provenienti da diverse infrastrutture militari e civili americane, da varie tipologie di radar, come anche satelliti spia e sistemi ottici di varia natura. Tra questi è diventato famoso un oggetto ovale biancastro, noto come Tic Tac, circa delle dimensioni di un autobus, che fu intercettato da 2 caccia F-18, partiti dalla portaerei Nimitz, mentre si muoveva in modo erratico creando delle increspature sull'oceano. Negli Stati Uniti gli UFO sono stati oggetto di ripetute indagini nel corso dei decenni, in particolare a partire dalla seconda metà del secolo scorso. Nel 1947 l'aeronautica militare ha iniziato una serie di studi che hanno esaminato più di 10.000 avvistamenti di UFO. Tra questi vi era anche uno studio con il nome in codice di Progetto Blue Book, che iniziò nel 1952. Vediamo la conferenza stampa ufficiale dell'epoca.
And Major Hector Quintanilla is now the chief of Project Blue Book. Major Quintanilla, what are the objectives of Project Blue Book?
The objectives of the program are twofold. They're the same as they have been since 1953 when the regulations were written. First of all, to try to determine if the UFO phenomena presents a threat to the security of the United States. and second, to determine if the UFO phenomena exhibits any technological advances which could be turned into research and development.
What's the record so far?
To date, we have over 10,000 cases at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, of which 646 of these remain unidentified. That's not to say that we could not have identified more cases if we had gotten to the observer quickly and checked the local activity.
The Air Force has been accused from time to time of hiding information about UFO. What do you have to say to that, Colonel Patton?
Well, these charges are absolutely untrue. Actually, the United States Air Force releases statistics on the UFO phenomena through the Department of Defense press desk periodically, and we've always honored accredited media when they want to investigate a given specific sighting.
There's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide at all.
Is there anything in the files, either classified or unclassified, that would indicate that there may be extraterrestrial visitors over here?
First of all, the project is completely unclassified. And there is nothing in the records which would indicate that we have been visited by any advanced civilization.
Abbiamo capito che già negli anni 50 c'era l'interesse per il reverse engineering degli UFO, ma soprattutto che 646 fenomeni rimasero inspiegabili. Ovviamente a noi non interessano i 10.000 avvistamenti già chiariti, e quindi non realizzeremo mai 10.000 video sul nulla come farebbero gli scettici. Noi, come militari americani, che hanno continuato a indagare, vorremmo sapere cosa hanno trovato in quei 646 fenomeni inspiegabili. Uno di questi ce lo spiega Tom Delonge.
Now I fly out to this airport and I sit at a table in a restaurant at the airport. No one's in there. And this gentleman sits down and the waiter comes up. He waves off the waiter and he looks me in the eye and says, it was the Cold War and we found a life form. And that's when I started shitting my pants because I know a lot about this stuff, but you always wait to talk to somebody that is one of the inside people. You always want to have...
So he sits down at a restaurant with you at the airport and tells you that they found a life form.
Yes. And
during the Cold War?
During the Cold War. And everything that they did and every decision they made at the time was because of the consciousness of the Cold War.
And why has this guy decided to meet with you at an airport?
Because the only way you meet with these people, the only way you ever would have anyone talk to you is if you can provide a service that they need. Mm-hmm. And my service was pretty interesting to them because I said, look, you guys, you struggle with saying disclosure. You want to tell everybody everything, which I don't think everyone should know everything. And then you say, they can't handle it, so don't tell them anything, And I'm like, there's a middle road there. And here's the way I would do the middle road. And it resonated with them, And so we had a pretty epic conversation for like 2 hours.
Why you? Like, why? What is it about what your message was?
Because
what your idea was that made them want to tell you some top secret shit that they've tried to keep away from the American people? Well, I mean, you take a guy who's like a big celebrity who's in a huge rock band like you, and you just say, hey, meet me in an airport. I'm going to tell you about a life form that we found during the Cold War because you're famous or because you know things?
No, because I have a service. So it's not, it sounds easy when you play it like that, but
service? A
service. Like what can you do for them that they need help with?
And what could you do?
Communication. They don't have a way to make a movie, a book. They don't know how. Don't have a way to make documentaries. They don't have a way to go on a big show like this and communicate with young people. They don't do that, and nor should they. They look at. You got to look at what they're doing.
So they look to you for a spokesperson role?
I wouldn't say spokesperson role.
Communication role?
A communication role. It makes more sense.
So they would give some information to you and you would get it out to people. And now why wouldn't they do it themselves? Because they wouldn't have the same platform?
They don't have
access to the same platform that you would have?
And the other reason is people have tried to do movies and stuff like this, but none of them know. I was fortunate enough to know the core story. I don't believe that some of the events happened on accident. I think that there's been a lot of events that are on purpose. Some have been for show. Some have been for, there's a variety of reasons. But I think a lot of it is a control system that's really pushing humanity in a very specific direction. And
so like they've got a time frame where they've had these events take place. Is that what you think?
Yeah. And they also time travel, which is different than what people think in like a movie where they sit in a machine and all of a sudden you're in the 1930s and you got to go save humanity. When you use the technology, you have there's a time difference between what they're doing inside of an artificially created bubble of gravity of sorts, and then what's on the outside. So if you're on the inside of one of those machines, everything would be skewed more black and white. There would be like a red shift, and everybody would look frozen. So you literally could fly around and grab a Coke out of someone's hand and put it in someone else's hand. It's really...
Where are you getting this from?
Well, take a wild guess. Look at the people I'm surrounded by, you know.
Ed eccole le persone di cui si è circondato. Harold Puthoff, ingegnere elettrico e parapsicologo, ovviamente una figura molto controversa. Jim Semivan, ex direttore della CIA. I primi tre sono i soci dell'azienda To The Stars, fondata nel 2017 a San Diego. Gli altri invece sono Lou Elizondo, ex direttore del AATIP, Steve Justice, ex direttore della Skunk Works, e Christopher Mellon, ex sottosegretario dell'intelligence. Oggi sono i principali manager di To The Stars. E di cosa si occupa questa impresa? Lo capiamo da uno dei loro video istituzionali.
We created a company called To The Stars Academy of Arts and Science. As a team, we synergistically united our strengths into 3 cohesive divisions: aerospace, science, and entertainment. With the entertainment division, we create worlds, science fiction stories for millennials that inspire and transcend. We are a publisher, a merchandiser, and a production studio. We have stories about dreams, consciousness, the paranormal, UFOs, and many other themes that once used to be taboo, but after newly declassified government documents, are now proving to be absolutely real. We even have our own reality series launching this year on the History Channel, a weekly 1-hour series on our company and all that we do. In the aerospace division, we are paving the way to bring our science fiction stories to life, whether using beams of light to launch satellites, building a new generation propulsion by bending the fabric of space-time, commonly called anti-gravity, or even communicating through a new machine using quantum mechanics. For the first time, these opportunities are real and have the potential to completely revolutionize the way we live. In the science division, we are building the world's first and only artificial intelligence database of unexplained events, deploying data collection teams internationally, and analyzing exotic materials originating from unidentified aerial phenomena. And here, for the first time in history, this group of spies, aerospace engineers, and secretive government officials have chosen to team up with an award-winning producer to change the status quo. We want to do something more than just tell a story this time. We want to be in the story and then bring it all to life. Educating the world, creating revolutionary technology, and telling the story of the millennia, and doing it all together. There's nothing bigger. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science is where science fiction becomes reality.
La credibilità di Tom Delonge è stata avvalorata nel dicembre del 2017 dalla pubblicazione di un articolo del New York Times che ha rivelato l'esistenza dell'AATIP e che successivamente ha portato alla conferma dell'autenticità dei video. Ascoltiamolo su ulteriori dettagli circa gli UFO.
You said that you were able to put things together that other people weren't. What are those things?
Essentially, it's the book Secret Machines, where you have a lot of private finance, you have some world bankers, and you have a lot of people internationally working together to figure out a plan of how to push back against something that's been coming here for a very long time, but using off-the-books finances and using mechanisms that we're not totally aware exist. And what people have to realize is, you know, the UFO phenomenon isn't a phenomenon. There's the universe is fucking gigantic, and there's life everywhere, every fucking where, and there's a lot of life that's way more advanced than we are. And just like Voyager left our solar system a little dinky satellite from the 70s, and just like my company is going to be building, you know, this electromagnetic craft that really can do the same thing to time that I've been telling you about. Other civilizations have that too, which means you can traverse those distances of space. And what you have to think about is what happened when we first discovered that, and what did we do about it? And there's no, you know, you got to look at 47 in a very peculiar way. 90 days after the Roswell event, CIA was created, the Air Force was separated from the Army, the National Security Act was created, and all those things are mechanisms to start learning more and to start getting private industry off the ground.
Ehi, sei uno scettico negazionista che vede solo lanterne cinesi, palloni meteorologici, fulmini globulari? Sai già cosa fare. Ma se invece non hai dei pregiudizi e sei solo curioso di capire cosa sta accadendo, partecipa, commenta e condividi il video. Al prossimo episodio!